Hi, I'm Shannon from the training department at Stampin' Up! This video is a follow-up to the video we did when we first launched our new ink pads. We hope that you are all loving the new ink pads. I know I am. We've had some questions about them, so we want to share with you some more tips for success. You've probably noticed the greatest perk of the new ink pads is the amazing image you get when stamping. You get a good, solid image with lots of ink. A fundamental difference with the firm foam ink pads is their ability to keep ink available for use. The ink isn't sucked into the ink pad, but instead kept closer to the surface. The foam wants to release the ink onto our stamps, which is what gives us the beautiful image in the end. And since the ink stays closer to the surface, only light tapping is required. So let me show you what I mean by light tapping. Just take your ink pad and your stamp and gently touch them together. Now if you turn it to the side like this, then you can see when the two meet up. A super light touch like this. And try it this way until you get the feel for the pressure, and then you can go back to laying it on the table if you'd like. So you can see that provides enough ink to have a beautifully stamped image. Now because the ink is being released easier, more ink is being used. So naturally we'll need to monitor the ink levels more often, which includes, first of all, re-ink more often, but use less ink each time. Take refills to your events just in case you need some more ink, and make sure to suggest to your customers to purchase a refill with their ink pad. Let me show you how we recommend adding ink to the firm foam ink pads. This is a Daffodil Delight ink pad and my matching re-inker. Put the ink down on the ink pad like this, and then you will need an instrument to move the ink around a little bit. You can use either a bone folder. That's a great tool, the perfect tool to use, and the only concern may be that it gets a little bit stained. But I like this anyway because you can clean it off and it still works just fine like a regular bone folder. If you don't want to do that, you can use a plastic spoon or something disposable. Just make sure that the edge isn't sharp because you don't want to slice the foam. So take your instrument and frost your ink pad similar to how you would frost a cake. So you just move the ink around like this and then go the other direction also, or do it however you would like until the ink is all settled into the ink pad. So let's test it out and see how it turned out. Perfect. We've got our perfect little image. Now start with one layer of ink when you're re-inking and follow up with more if you need to. Generally, you'll only need one layer unless your ink pad is quite dry. When you first receive your ink pad, they may be overly juicy. We found that the closer the ink pads are to the manufacturing date, the juicier that they are. You also may accidentally over-ink one of your ink pads, and in either scenario of a too juicy pad, you may notice some bubbling on the ink, on your stamp with the ink. So in that situation, try pushing the ink into the pad and dispersing the ink more evenly through the pad. So this is an ink pad that I've found the last couple of days was a little bit juicy. So just take your bone folder and do the same thing. Press the ink into the ink pad, or frost if you will, and that way you can make sure that your ink pad is, the ink is there, but just pressed in a little bit. Now the same technique can be used if you use a pad over and over in the same spot. You'll start to notice that it's lighter in that particular area. So you could either stamp all over the ink pad and avoid this in the first place, or if you get to this point where you can see this is Sahara sand and you can see it's slightly lighter right in the center there. So do the same thing with that one. Just take your instrument and move the ink around, and so it is a little bit more evenly dispersed, like so. Now a quick mention about the labels on the ink pads. When you receive the ink pads, they have 4 labels on the bottom, the 4 different languages. And so select whichever language you like and put it on the end of your ink pad here. Now with the remaining labels, you can either take them off and discard them if you'd like, or I took one of the other ones and put it on the other side of my ink pad. That way I've got it here, and when I open my ink pad and set it down on my table, it's also on this side, so I can always see what color it is. Kind of a cool new little thing that you can do. Now as one final recommendation, instead of stamping basic black on Whisper White and Very Vanilla cardstock, we suggest using StazOn. As you may know, Whisper White and Berry Vanilla are coated and react differently with the inks. You may find that stamping on Whisper White and Berry Vanilla is a little different than it used to be. The main reason for this is each image that you stamp is more saturated with ink, which causes the ink to dry a little bit more slowly. The ink hasn't changed at all besides those 5 colors that had a color change. The formula was changed. Watch the other ink pad video for more information on that. The slower drying time can also be viewed as a benefit now because you can emboss in any color. So these images here, I did some embossing. You can see they're nice and shiny. Even with the 2-step stamping, I was still able to emboss. So I stamped the whole thing and then embossed all together. Same with these. And this one, I did a little bit of rock and roll and then embossed after. So it turned out perfectly. I adore the firm foam pads and find it much easier to get a perfect image when using them compared to our previous ink pads. They're an awesome improvement that have only made our product line stronger. We hope you will put these tips into practice and find the same success. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.